All right, it's day 3, and I've still managed to successfully not buy a guitar.
Oh, wow. I looked at the guitars and I talked to my loving partner and I was like, hey, what do you think about a second guitar?
Hang on. How old is the first guitar?
2 years. I bought it at the start of the pandemic.
Oh, okay. All right. That's a decent spread. You could.
I feel like it's a reasonable period of time.
Yeah. Let me ask a different question. How long have you been playing that guitar?
So let's see. I started learning chords back when I got it originally.
Oh, okay.
And I've been off and on practicing. Like I stopped practicing for long enough for my calluses to go away.
Mm-hmm. That'll happen.
And then I picked it back up like 3 times. And now I'm at the point that I can almost play a song. So it's like the new Rocksmith has helped. That's
the real question. When did the Rocksmith start?
So I tried the Rocksmith 2014, which is mostly an electric guitar learning tool.
Mm-hmm.
A while ago, like right when I first got it, because I had a friend of mine used to work there, a mutual friend of ours used to work there, and he had sent me a code to check it out. And then it didn't work great for acoustic back then. So I switched to like some app based stuff that was fine. And like I got to the point that I could play like a C and a G and an F and a D chord pretty reliably, and A's and E's and all that.
Those are all bangers, major bangers.
Yeah. Classics, all the classics. And then I stopped because I got busy doing other stuff.
I think you need to show her that you can stick with it for at least 6 months before you can have another guitar.
I think that's probably a pretty reasonable choice there.
There has been a firestorm of guitar discussion on the Discord since we talked about Rocksmith last week.
This is the power. With great power comes great responsibility, Brad.
The power of suggestion is what's at work here because, oh boy, the enablers is what we have on that server.
We should have just called this podcast Brilliant Brad and Will Made an Enablement Pod.
Maybe I should have bought one. Those deals might still be up. There were deals on some Squire. I hate to use the word knockoff. I don't think that's fair. Squire is like the budget Fender version, and Epiphone makes a bunch of budget Gibsons, and there were some insane deals on some Squire Telecasters and Epiphone SGs and Les Pauls, like $170.
Yeah, they're like cheap starter guitars, which is a fine place to learn, I think.
Like when I was into this stuff 25 years ago, like the Squire was kind of looked down on as not very good, but apparently the manufacturing on those has gotten way, way better, and they're actually like totally legit guitars now. We should maybe... No, we have to move on.
Should we do a guitar episode?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
We should not. I don't need another musical instrument that I'm probably not going to play enough.
Okay. So I think once you do 6 months of piano, you're allowed to buy a guitar, Brad.
Okay.
That's the thing. I bought something stupid the other day.
Oh?
So I've been playing that Atari 50th thing a fair amount.
Yes.
Which
so
is like,
good.
I like playing is maybe not the right word because it's kind of more of like a, hey, here's me learning about some games that I didn't have a lot of exposure to.
Totally. I'd spent like 2 hours in that thing before I ever booted up one of the games.
Yeah, exactly. But then I got to the point where I'm like, oh, here's some bangers I want to play. And I talked to some friends who work at Digital Extreme,
Digital
Eclipse. Sorry.
Yes.
A few weeks ago about this exact thing. And I was like, I'm not going to buy an Atari kit. It's stupid to buy a Atari kit. And then I started playing Tempest and I was like, oh man, I want something that spins. And I started playing Combat. And I was like, I want a stick. And I was like, played Caverns of Mars. I was like, it's not the same with a gamepad.
I see where this is going.
So I went to Amazon and I bought one of those Atari VCS wireless joysticks, the ones with the spinner handle.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Is that were those made for the recent quote unquote Atari, that x86 box?
Yes, they were made for that x86 box. It is a shape like the classic Atari joystick. It's a square with it has rounded edges, so you don't get the weird callus in the palm of your hand. I
am looking this up as we speak.
It is a vertical stick with a button, and the handle is also a spinner. And my friend, our friend Jeremy Williams, who wrote Vector Sector over in the Atari 50th thing, had given it high marks, even though it was kind of expensive. So I looked at because people make USB paddle controllers, people make USB Atari joysticks, and I was like, I'm going to get one of each of those. And then I was like, wait, for the same price as buying one of each of those, I can just buy this thing that does both things and is the only one thing that I have to store instead of two. So I'll let you know how it goes. It comes today.
That looks pretty cool. I still want one of those things. What do they call the actual console? Is it the VCS?
The VCS.
Back to the VCS name.
Yeah.
Again, let me see.
Was it good? I'm always a little skeptical of those things now.
Not for $400. I'm still just sore from a year ago when GameStop was liquidating theirs for $99. Like it was not worth $400, but it was like a decent AMD APU with like okay graphics. Like it would have been a decent little like set top, and you can install whatever OS you want on it. So like for $100, and it looks cool because it's got wood paneling.
Yeah, they're $300 now. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay more than $100 for one, but if they go back on sale. Speaking of paying $100, I bought $100 worth of Christmas lights the other day.
Ooh, what'd you get?
Professional Christmas lights.
Oh, professional, eh? I had a similar adventure last week.
Mm-hmm.
Best Buy was selling the fancy twinkly lights, the ones that you can upload patterns to that are RGB individually lit.
You mean capital T twinkly, like the brand?
Capital T, the brand twinkly from Finland or whatever. And I went out and screwed hooks into the underside of the eaves of the house, and now I have a permanent light installation on the house. So far, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the neighbors.
That's awesome. Wait, they're never coming down?
I don't think I'm ever going to. I think they're all season lights now.
What have you displayed on them?
So let's see. The first choice was made by my daughter. We picked a rainbow that goes from one side to the other. That was pretty cool. We have a candy cane red and white that just alternates red and white and moves slowly back and forth across the house. We have some like classic Christmas multicolor lights, the blue and the purple and the orange and the red. And we have an Italian flag speckle pattern that kind of twinkles red, green, and white all the time. So that seems festive too.
What would you say is the resolution of your Christmas light screen?
Well, let's see. It's 600 lights, and it's across about 75 feet.
Is it a net or a line? Like
it's a line, but I doubled up.
Oh, okay.
I bought the 600 light strand, which is 150 feet, but the amount of coverage I needed was almost exactly. It was like 76 feet. So there's 1 foot of space that's not doubled up, but everywhere else is doubled up.
Now these are the ones you like scan with the phone app that like models their spatial arrangement.
Yeah, you 3D map them. I got to do a better job with it because it's a little tricky.
I don't know why. For some reason, I was thinking like you should put Nyan Cat on there.
So I don't know if I could get a Nyan Cat because it's only one line. So it's like
that's the thing. You're going to need way more lines.
I mean, so look, they were kind of expensive. But let's see, it's 600 dots divided by 75 feet divided by 12 inches in a feet. So it's 0.6667 dots per inch. It's a little low res compared to what we're used to on a phone. I think I can do the Knight Rider thing though. And where it goes womp womp and the red just goes across the front of the house.
Okay, do it. You need to set up speaker outside.
Yeah, that's the next. That's for once we get out of the holiday season. Once we get out of the festive time, the house is just going to be kit.
Hey, nothing says holidays like Michael Knight. Okay.
Welcome to Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod. I'm Will.
I'm Brad. Hello.
Hello. You sound good today. You sound like you're feeling back out. You're out of the weather. You're above the weather.
Getting there. Okay. It's been a long haul, man.
It sucks. It's not a good time.
No, it's not.
Brad, it is. We've reached the end of the month, which, as we all know, means it's time to turn the Q's into the A's.
That's right. I'm thankful for the copious bounty of questions that our illustrious Discord dwellers sent us this month. Did you check the inbox?
I did. But before we get to that, I want, hey, shout out to your mom because we made her broccoli casserole again.
Oh no! every time you talk about
mother
this
for me, Brad.
Every time you talk about this, I feel more and more guilty that I have not dug up that recipe.
Oh, I have the recipe. I didn't know if it was okay to share.
Oh, can you send it to me?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I am 99% sure we had literally this exact conversation last year.
We've done this. This is 2 years running. We've had this conversation now.
Either you sent it to me and I didn't do anything with it, or you didn't send it to me. I don't know which. Somebody dropped the ball somewhere.
Look, it's possible that the ball was dropped. The point is the broccoli casserole is the number one item on our table at Thanksgiving these days.
Yeah. Is it it's got the cream of mushroom soup, right?
I mean, look, all good casseroles start with cream of mushroom soup.
Well, yeah, fair.
It's got cream of mushroom soup, but the secret ingredient is stuffing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Indeed.
good stuff.
Did you just oh yes, thank you to my mom.
Thank you to your mom
for a great broccoli casserole. Did you ever just eat the Campbell's cream of mushroom soup as soup?
My mom would try to make that happen multiple times in my youth. She was like, you'd really like this if you tried it. I was like, fuck off. I'm not eating cream of mushroom soup.
Oh man, I love that stuff.
I mean, look, there's an appeal when you squeeze it out of the can and it's like the solid piece of mushroom jelly.
Yes,
it's like
gelatinous soup tube.
Yeah, that's like that. I feel like that would smear on a cracker pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Also shorten your life dramatically. So
yes, I mean that was my standard. My SOP was to crumble a bunch of saltine crackers on top of it.
Okay, so our normal, like our nightmare bad canned food when I was a kid was we always had some of those smoked oysters around in the can, like the fake artificial smoked oysters, and you put those on a saltine, like a couple of those on a saltine.
I'm sure we've talked about all this before. Vienna sausages.
You dip them in the mustard. We didn't do potted meat. That was a bridge too far for my mom.
Potted meat was around in my house a lot, let's say.
Yeah, Vienna sausages were like you're hungry, just go get a can of Vienna sausages kind of snack for us.
Yep. All right.
It's weird that my whole family has heart blood pressure problems. What a weird coincidence.
It is a common affliction in that part of the country, let's say.
Mm-hmm. So this is the Q's into A's episode of the podcast, as we have alluded to previously. If you have a question, you can send them to techpod@content.town.
You're scrunching up your.
I couldn't remember. I was like, I'm blanking. We've done this 100 times. No, it's techpod@content.town. Or if you're in the Discord, you can post a question in the Q's Seeking A's channel, where it will probably disappear pretty shortly after you post it. Mm-hmm. Our first question.
Yes, as is tradition now, I guess we start with the email questions.
Yeah, Brad, we got to check that email inbox more because there were some people that wanted to advertise on the podcast. And while we don't take advertisement, it's nice to talk to the advertisers just in case.
That's, it's probably worth hearing them out.
Yeah. You want to hit this first one? We have 2 email questions this time.
All right, let's do it.
I do love, this is from Marcus. He says, I do love all the streams both of you do, but since I live in another time zone, I have a really hard time catching your streams live. I usually put your stream archive in a tab on a separate browser to watch everything chronologically. As you both stream quite a lot on Twitch, do you as a streamer make anything when someone watches one of your previous live streams, or is it all about view numbers and subscribers during live streams? Well, I mean, obviously, go ahead.
Well, I was going to, did he specify where he's watching the archives? Because I think that probably determines the answer, right?
On Twitch, I would assume.
Well, you would know better than me. My understanding is Twitch archives don't really monetize much at all, if at all.
They count for ad revenue.
They do? Okay.
And if obviously people subscribe or put bits in while they're watching the archive, that you get that money.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that with archive. I didn't know you could do bits with archives.
Yeah, you can. So even if you're not in the same time zone, you can still subscribe and then you don't get ads during the videos.
Okay. My info might be outdated. I thought at one point I had heard that they don't monetize archives on Twitch, but I guess that's wrong.
So you can always put, like, Twitch will always let you give money to a streamer, whether they're online or off, for subs or for bits. Cause I often get I'll often log into my channel and there will be 2 notifications from times when I was not online for people who have subscribed or whatever in an off time zone. But they do monetize ads as of 2 years ago, I think.
Okay.
When they changed the way the ad system works. So anyway.
Yes.
That's it. You want to do the next one? You want me to read this next one?
Do you have one more email?
I have one more email.
Let's flush the emails.
Okay. It's a question from Will in Pacifica. It says, Brad,
go on.
As a longtime iPad user, what's your strategy for managing the iPad and your phone? Do you have certain apps that are phone or iPad only? Do you keep everything on your phone and a subset on your iPad? Are the same apps in your tray on each device? What is your overall strat?
Well, Will from Pacifica.
It's really weird. There must be another Will in Pacifica. Who
would have thought? My iPad is mostly a consumption device. So
like you use it as a plate and put food on it?
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Okay. You really have to keep that thing clean. My feeling is anything with like actual life utility should go on the phone because that's the thing you are guaranteed to have with you at all times. Okay. Of course, there's also the ongoing issue that Apple remains strongly opinionated about what should and should not be an iPad app.
Right. How is that a thing still?
There's still no weather app on the iPad. There's still no calculator on the iPad.
I don't know what's going to happen when Will in Pacifica says, I don't know what's going to happen when Dark Skies stops working at the end of the year, because then I won't have a weather app on my iPad for some reason.
Is Dark Skies just a weather app, or is that sounds like? Oh, is that astronomy related as well? I think we've talked about it before.
Dark Skies is great. Dark Skies is the app that looked at like the direction the rain radar was moving on the map and looked at your location of your device, and then was like, hey, it looks like there's rain moving toward where you are, and it's moving at this rate, so you're going to get rain in like 15 minutes.
Oh, that's awesome. Like relative real-time weather updates as opposed to just long-term forecast. Like that's
hyper local.
That's amazing. That sounds...
It's great.
Why is it going to stop working?
Apple bought them and integrated it in the weather app, which doesn't exist on the iPad apparently.
Did iPad? First of all, I hate saying iPad OS. I hate saying Watch OS. I wish it was still anyway.
iPad. You can just say iPad. Underlay, iPad.
Did iPad OS 16 come out?
16.2 is out.
Oh my gosh.
16.1 is out.
My iPad has not notified me. I will say, I think I saw that. Okay, yes, the weather app comes to iPad. It's one of the points.
Thank God, our long national nightmare is over.
Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to ramble here, but anything that I'm ever going to actually need goes on my phone. Okay, like there's stuff like Dropbox and Google Drive and some stuff that is functional that I put on the iPad as well, because obviously it's easier to like read docs on an iPad than a phone. But the iPad is primarily I want to read forums or Twitter or
like Discord or
whatever replaces Twitter or Discord. Yeah. Like I just want to keep up with news, like whatever, and don't want to hold a laptop. Like it's comfy and compact, and that's what I use it for primarily.
I picked one up recently and I'm learning, like it's the last time I used an iPad, iOS wasn't separate. Like they hadn't bifurcated the OSs yet.
Sure.
So or at least the UI, the OSs, I think maybe were bifurcated, but it was basically like they hadn't added all the screen over and split view and all that stuff yet. So
which one would you got? One of the fancy new Pros?
I got one of the M2 Pro. I got the small M2 Pro.
The new, what is that? 11 inch now?
It's 11 inches. I needed a like I was either that or buying a laptop, and I was like, I kind of want, like, it would be nice to have something that I can just hold in my hand and read with.
If you don't have any kind of heavy compute needs in a portable, I would say the iPad is definitely the better choice.
Yeah. And like with US, like if I'm traveling and I want to record with it, I can record with it theoretically with the USB-C just by bringing my audio interface and a pair of headphones. So
yeah. I thought about, I'm on it's the first 10.5 inch Pro iPad, which is like 5 years old now. I thought about getting one of those new ones because they did just refresh. That M2 iPad just came out like less than a month ago.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to try to squeeze another year out of this thing though.
I mean, I think, look, if I had had one of the early Pros, I probably would have been like, if I was where you are, like, I feel like iPads should be 5+ years, right?
For sure.
Like it's in the same category as a laptop.
Yeah. And it's not slow. I mean, we'll see once I upgrade to iPad OS 16 if it starts bogging down. But as of now, it's still fast enough. Like here's another thing they don't let you do on the iPad is view the battery health.
Really?
Yes, that's the kind of stuff I mean. Like they are still extremely stodgy about stuff that they don't expose on the iPad. So like I'm pretty sure the battery is starting to falter, but I can't prove it because you can't get to any good statistics like you can on the phone.
I haven't used an iPad with a pencil before. I bought the pencil. I hadn't used anything since they had the touch button on the front, really. I think the last iPad I had was an iPad Air 2 or 3. So it's been a minute, and it's a little bit disorienting because it's like your normal keyboard, your swipe shortcuts and all that are different from the phone now, which is surprising.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll report back as I spend more time with it.
Yeah, I'd like to hear about it. All right, it's time for Discord questions.
Ooh,
here is the first one from Console Command, to which I have no answer, but here we go. Why is it so common to see people talking on their cell phone like they're going to take a bite of toast? I cannot for the life of me understand this behavior.
Oh my God, I have no idea. It makes me crazy.
Like just to clarify, basically talking about holding the phone sort of horizontal with the speaker. Yeah. Toward the mouth. Or not the microphone rather.
I assume it's a result of the older phones that only had the microphone on the base, where you hold it up to your ear.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's so weird. Somebody was doing it at Thanksgiving the other day, and I was like, oh, why are you don't have to, because like, it's like if you're FaceTiming with somebody, if you're doing a video call or whatever, you just have it 5 feet away from you on a table or something, resting up and facing you. It's not like you feel like you have to talk into the microphone. It's I don't know, man. Maybe people feel like you have to talk into the microphone. It's the same instinct that makes people yell when they're talking to somebody who has poor comprehension of English, right? or on speakerphone for that matter. Yeah,
I've certainly had people put themselves on speaker and then start shouting into the phone like, "Hey, the microphone's pretty sensitive. You can just talk."
Yeah, they're pretty good now. It turns out.
Where are microphones on a modern phone at this point?
They're all over.
Are they really? Interesting.
Yeah, it's lousy with them.
Oh, huh.
So there's one in the top and the front. There's usually multiples because they do cancel. That's how they do cancellation. They have to do time of flight to get to be able to cancel out like waterfalls and stuff.
Sure.
It's a trip because like that big fountain behind Yerba Buena in San Francisco by Moscone.
Yes.
I was standing out there talking to somebody on the phone at GDC and like trying to meet up with somebody last year, the last time before that I went to GDC. And I was like, well, obviously you can tell that I'm standing next to the fountain. They're like, wait, what? You're standing next to the fountain? I can't hear it at all. And it's because even just holding the phone up to my ear, it was canceling. It was just ignoring all of the background noise of the water hitting.
That's impressive.
It was very cool.
That's impressive.
The technology, it is good.
It's silly. I have to agree. It's silly. Okay.
So what else we got?
How about a question from Seabird Song? In a s'more, the marshmallow is obviously always warm and toasty, but the chocolate is usually cold since you're outside on a night cold enough to build a fire. This leads to a bite mixing wonderful gooey marshmallow alongside disappointingly cold and not melty chocolate. How can this be avoided? Do you have any other s'more making tips? You're a s'more family, right?
We make s'mores. I never made s'mores as a kid.
Yeah, I didn't either.
We were always a toasted marshmallow family as kids. And my first exposure to s'mores was when we went camping on an island with with another couple of families, and they busted out chocolate and graham crackers with their toasted marshmallows.
Oh man!
I was like, wait, what?
You went island camping?
Well, so we were we had a boat and a boathouse.
Oh,
and we would often like
a lake island.
Yeah, on a lake island. So like on Thursday afternoon, somebody would go out and set up a bunch of tents on the good island. And then the rest of us would roll out Friday after school or whatever. And we'd set up and stay all weekend for like Memorial Day or Labor Day or whatever.
Yes. I've got like the Outer Banks on I thought you were talking like ocean islands.
No.
For some reason I went down a slight Roanoke rabbit hole recently.
Oh yeah. That's an interesting story, huh?
It was because somebody on Twitter is like probably my favorite thing I've seen about the god awful Twitter situation is that somebody basically said like, okay, whoever is the last one out just needs to tweet Croatoan as their final tweet and then vanish.
So anyway, yeah, I usually set the graham crackers with a piece of chocolate on them close to the fire.
Okay.
So like if you have like some if you have like a firebox around or you may put some stones there or whatever, you just kind of put a piece of foil down with the graham crackers on it so they can kind of toast up a little bit. Yeah. And also you need the marshmallows to be nuclear hot.
Really?
Yeah, like you need to slow roast that marshmallow so the outside is like a hard crunchy shell and the inside is just molten fire in there. And then when you mash it into the chocolate, it melts the chocolate.
I wonder if, so you probably wouldn't want to hold the graham cracker right over the fire because you might scorch it, right? But could you maybe just like wave the chocolate around over the fire just a tad? Like, I mean, I'm talking like 10 seconds or something.
I mean, okay, first off, everybody uses Hershey's for s'mores. Most people use Hershey's for s'mores, which is kind to call it chocolate.
Whoa. Damn, strong chocolate opinions.
Look, I got to say, we went camping with some friends in May, and they busted out some Lindt bars, and I was like, "Holy shit! This is a fancy camping trip. This is an upscale." If you use better chocolate, it melts better. The Hershey's gets gooey, but it's just all the high fructose corn syrup or the oil or whatever they use. I don't know what they use. Yeah, I think you could wave it over the, like, I feel like if you had one of those little toasting boxes, you could put the s'more, the graham cracker and the chocolate in that and kind of hold it over the flame directly. But I don't know if I want a toasted I like the graham cracker to be cool so that I don't burn my hands.
Sure.
I only want to burn the roof of my mouth really bad. That's the goal.
Yeah. I haven't eaten yet today. We have to, look, we should move on.
I also have to say, as a beard person, you got to be real careful with s'mores because like it's like you don't want marshmallow in there because it's never coming out. Is there a substance so tacky or so difficult to remove that it would force you to cut your beard off? Like, I feel like bubble gum is off limits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super glue.
Man, if you get super glue in your face, you made mistakes.
Yes. Fair.
The marshmallow is close. It's dangerous.
Really?
You can get you can get really fused in there.
Seems like that would be water soluble.
Yeah, but if you're camping, how hard? It's pretty hard to wash a beard if you're camping.
You're just going to walk around with a marshmallow in your beard all weekend. It's not.
Yeah, well, and a bunch of yellow jackets and shit if you have a marshmallow in your beard.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah. All right. Next question from Retro Snow. We talked about this recently. I'm sure you've got some info here. I've got some other info. We'll see what we got. On the previous episode, Brad talked about longing for the old internet full of blogs, and I assume other ancient stuff like GeoCities websites after experiencing social media exhaustion. I am a 23-year-old electrical engineer who has that same longing. I grew up with older siblings and have fond memories of the early 2000s internet. For a couple of years, I've wanted to make a blog or website, but I've been overwhelmed by the options. What service do I use for buying domains? Google? GoDaddy? What service can I use for making good web page templates? Square? WordPress? How should I acquire a non-Gmail email address? And should my web pages be static or dynamic? Just looking for info to get started and contribute to an internet full of personal blogs again.
So as the new proprietor of shitty.blog.
Yeah, well, actually, why don't we just walk through what you did, and then if I have anything to add.
So I think at some point I got an email from WordPress. It was like, hey, if you come back and sign up for WordPress, you can get a free domain. And at that point I was like, oh, they own the top level .blog. So I'm going to see what they have. And
WordPress owns .blog?
I believe so. Yes.
I didn't know that. Also, I didn't know they did their own domain. I didn't know they were a registrar.
WordPress is pretty big.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that. Right.
Aren't they like not a for-profit situation? I forget what's their structure. They're like a weird structure, right? Or did they get bought and they're just straight up corporation now?
No, WordPress is owned by WordPress was started by Matt Mullenweg, he seems okay.
Aren't they owned by Automatic with 2 T's?
Automatic is Matt Mullenweg's company.
3 T. Oh, maybe they didn't sell then.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the Matt has 2 T's, which is it's Matt.
Okay.
Look, the story about Matt Mullenweg, and I assume this it may be apocryphal, but the story is that he started WordPress because he wanted to be the number one Matt on the internet, which is why all the footers on WordPress blogs used to link to his domain.
That's pretty good. Wow.
Yeah.
Their stats, 20 billion page views a month through WordPress.
They're big.
Jeez.
So WordPress is a good place to start, I think, if you want to do a blog. At this point, like Tumblr is also interesting, but Tumblr is kind of like a weird blog social network hybrid, and you get network effects. But the nice thing about WordPress is I can export a file from my WordPress instance that will let me move it to any other WordPress instance, whether I want to host it myself or move it to a different host or whatever.
Oh, that's convenient.
Like that's straightforward. I mean, I think you have to do some template work, but the posts will actually transfer.
So is that your recommendation? Just go to WordPress.com and kind of follow the plan?
So, okay, I will say I wouldn't use GoDaddy.
Yes.
because they suck. They have problems. I usually do my domain registration at Hover. I find them to be pretty good. They support 2-factor. They let you lock domains. And for the TLDs that allow domain privacy, you can make your contact info private, which is important if you're hosting domains.
Yes. I'll jump in here. I use Porkbun.
Oh,
porkbun.com is my domain registrar. They anonymize by default.
Yeah.
They're quite low cost. They're boutique. They're they're kind of a neat company. They're like a bunch of like old school network engineers from ISPs and stuff that kind of got together to start like a little boutique registrar in Portland.
Oh, that's fun. Do they all have mustaches?
Probably.
Yeah,
probably.
The some TLDs don't allow private domains. So like I think .pro is one that you can't get a .pro if you privatize your information. So pay attention to that when you're registering weird TLDs.
That happened to me. I bought a .us.
Yeah.
And kind of ignored those warnings and then looked at the whoised it and like, oh, and then I actually just got rid of it.
Yeah, that was my experience with the .pro. So WordPress is easy. You can point your domain at WordPress. That's pretty straightforward. If you want to do like the Squarespace, Squarespace is more for like landing pages and business pages than like you can do a blog on Squarespace, but it's priced for businesses. So
yeah,
like I think they start at like $20 a month, which is kind of a lot. I think WordPress you can do free if you don't mind having ads. I think I pay $4 a month and get no ads.
Okay.
So that means nobody sees ads on my WordPress.com hosted blog.
Yeah. You
can also do commercial WordPress hosts for about that same price, which means that they instead of WordPress hosting their thing on their service, WordPress.com, which is basically running a version of the open source WordPress client and gates things like plugins for commercial users. You can pay a host that will manage an instance of WordPress for you. That's as if you're hosting it yourself. Like DreamHost does that. There's a thing called Bluehost. There's a couple of others, and they let you do more traditional like plugins and stuff, but they also don't manage comment spam and that sort of thing maybe quite as well. Like
right.
That's up to you as a user.
I totally forgot there's also WordPress.org, which is the non-commercial.
Yeah. Like WordPress is the open source commercial dichotomy. It's a good, we should get Matt Mullenweg on the Tech Pod.
Okay.
On the Foss Pod.
The Foss Pod, yeah.
They do. So the open source project is on .org. Anybody can download it. You can install it on your web server, whatever. It's super easy to do. Like if you can run it on a Linode for $5 a month and have your own hosted, I don't want to have to fool with managing the server because there's overhead to that and there's time security patches, all sorts of stuff I don't want to have to fool with.
Yeah.
So I'll happily pay someone else $5 a month to deal with that.
Yeah. I thought at one point 2 years ago about like, I could just run a little blog off of my NAS here.
Don't do that.
I've got a domain, but
that's a bad idea.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
I ran an Nginx instance in a container for like 2 weeks. And then I looked at the access logs and realized how much you're getting. If you have a domain that is public pointing to a web server, how much you are getting crawled constantly from all over the world.
Yeah. And it's like you have, if you're doing that, you have to pay really close attention to like 0 days and stuff like that.
Yes. I have no desire to try to keep up with security stuff and expose myself in that way.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is setting up the WordPress blog. I turned off all of the engagement stuff. So I have all the comments off. I tried to turn off all of their share your social links. I think I haven't been successful with that yet. I got to figure out what I need to remove from the template for that to work. But for me, it's just hey, here's a place to share stuff that I think is interesting. If anybody reads it, great. If they don't, also fine. That blogs are best that way. I posted my oatmeal recipe there the other day.
Wait, hang on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure I just misheard you. I'd swear you just said I posted my opium recipe.
Oatmeal.
Well, shit, that's not so. That's way less fun.
Look, the oatmeal's really good, dude. It's not opium good, but it's pretty good.
Could you make opium oatmeal?
I mean, look, if you try hard enough, you can make opium anything.
That's fair.
But I am not a opium scientist.
That's a good point. Okay. All right. Shall we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Here's a question from Matt Bott. A lot of new faces in the questions this
I
month.
love that.
Question from Matt Bott is, are you a mouse pad person, a desk mat person, or do you just raw dog it on the desk?
Who raw dogs it on the desk now?
Oh, that's disgusting. That's just,
I have a mouse pad.
How do you define a mouse pad? Like, okay, we're talking, like the 90s style of like cloth. It's not cloth exactly, but it's like a fabric-y top on like a rubberized flimsy. Like those are basically dead, right?
So the ones that you're talking about are the neoprene ones, I think, where it's like a nylon cloth top on top of a neoprene, a quarter inch or eighth of an inch of neoprene.
Sure, that sounds right.
I do not have one. I have a wireless Logitech mouse. I use a Logitech Pro Superlight. I bought it. They don't send me stuff. The mouse pad, I got the self-charging, like the charging mat, so that I don't ever have to plug it in, and it never has wires. And I quite like that. The problem with that thing is it limits me to the size mouse pad that base supports, because if you have a bigger mouse pad, there's like weird overhangs. But yeah, that's my solution. I think if I didn't have the self-charge, the automatic charging, the wireless charging thing, I would probably do a big mat that my keyboard sits
Desk
on
mat
as well. Yeah.
So I've never seen one of those in person. Like, are those, like, when I look at them, I think of that old 90s neoprene nylon kind of thing, but they can't, surely they're not like that. Like what is your typical desk mat made out of?
Usually the difference is that the weave on the top surface is more uniform now. Okay. So you don't want, like the difference between a good mouse pad and a bad mouse pad is that the surface is predictable, so that the sensor has more accurate. Like it's the difference between going over something that's like a scribble that you do a scribble, and having a plotter do a scribble that's precise, right? If you have a precise pattern, then it's able to track more efficiently. But the sensors are high enough resolution now that I don't think it matters as much as it used to.
Yeah. What is the use case for those things? I mean, the mouse part is clear, but like, is it just a tactile, like it's nice to rest your hands on kind of thing for like, it's not like a keyboard needs a pad under it. I'm kind of just curious. Like, I know they look nice, but I'm just curious, like what the use case is for like the other 80% of the pad.
Well, the keyboard under the pad helps reduce sound if you have loud mechanical switches.
Yeah.
It makes your desk not a resonator for the keyboard sound. If that's your,
I can kind of see the appeal there.
Yeah. It also is nice because you can take that thing off and clean it off. So if you have crumbs or dust or hair or skin or whatever, it's easier to clean than the desktop. I think you just take it off and hose it off.
I am using a Funk Pad. Remember those?
Oh, you still a Funk Pad guy?
Dude,
I like my Funk Pad.
Would it shock you to know that this Funk Pad is from when I worked at GameSpot?
How funky is the Funk? I find those hard pads get kind of crusty after a while.
I clean it regularly with isopropyl and kind of like scrub it.
Okay. Get the dead skin off.
I should probably just clean it in the sink like it's a dish.
That's what I use. I use Dawn on my hard pads.
And you think like a dish sponge is probably fine?
Probably. I mean, look, I don't know.
You're not going to abrade I use the rough side, by the way, for people who remember the Funk Pad. I
prefer smooth and rough, right?
The rough, yes, is the mouse glides better than on the smooth side. This mouse pad says plays best on Alienware because GameSpot did a big deal with Alienware in I think 2005, and we all got big fat, ridiculous looking alien looking 2005 PCs.
Oh, did you get the plastic shell one?
Yes. If you Google, it was either the 05. I was just looking at this the other day. If you Google the 05 or the 06 Alienware, I think it was the 05.
I remember when they came out with those. It was when everybody else was doing like high-end aluminum cases, and Alienware couldn't figure out how to manufacture them at scale. So they just did a giant plastic shell around a steel case.
Yes. It's absurd. It was huge.
Yeah, it was very big.
Last thing I'll say about a mouse. I also am thinking about getting a wireless mouse. So if anybody listening has recommendations, I like Logitech, and I like the right-handed with the thumb groove grip. If anybody has wireless, I'm not so big on ambidextrous mouse.
Wouldn't have thought that. Wouldn't have thought intolerance was your thing, Brad. But here we are.
Look, the MX518 broke me forever. I have to have that thumb groove now.
I will tell you, I was a thumb groove guy until I tried a light mouse, and then I was like, oh right, light mouse. I understand why people like these.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I'm open to other suggestions. It doesn't have to be Logitech. That's kind of what I know. I have one of their reissue MX518s. Remember when they did that?
Yeah.
It's got, well, we talked about this offline. It's got this weird thing where it'll take phantom input on upwards vertically. It only does it in, well, no, it'll do it on the desktop, actually. I notice it most in games because if I'm playing a first-person game, my view will just flick all the way to the top out of nowhere.
Does it not have like a hair or something stuck in the sensor?
I looked at the sensor. It looks clean. It's done it pretty much since I got it. I've had it for a couple of years.
I would call them. They'll fix that.
I got it for $20 on sale. I kind of don't care. I kind of would just rather buy a wireless mouse. Anyway, anybody has any recommendations for wireless mice, hit me up in the Discord.
The thing I'll say is that the big pads, the big mats that people like now is almost universally tied to people who use very low DPI sensors. So they set their sensitivity really, really low so that you need to do a large movement to do any kind of you're just using a very large area to do tracking. So it gives you better precision for headshots and stuff like that.
Yes. All right. This might be our last question because it's actually like a bajillion question. I feel like Safid cheated here, but
it's
also
a cornucopia.
It's so clever that I have to respect the hustle. I almost scrolled right past this because it was 2 huge paragraphs, and I was like, well, that's too long to read on the show. And then I actually looked again. This is from user Safid on the Discord. It's actually just 2 huge paragraphs of question after question after question.
Oh, you broke them out in
this
the
is
doc.
Sneaky. I bolded the ones that I personally would want to read.
I'm good with that. I thought you made good choices.
Like I said, I feel like this is cheating and we almost should not allow it. But again, it's too deviously effective. So here we go. Several of Safid's questions. As a kid, did you build tree houses or blanket forts? As an adult, which do you prefer? I'm going to go tree house on both.
We did both when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, a blanket fort is fine, but I don't feel like you can. I don't know. The woods is a cool place. Let me put it that way. As a child, I feel like the woods is a place that really fires the imagination.
A lot of our trees here, like we have a bunch of eucalyptuses and stuff around us, which are not good for tree houses.
Yeah.
We had when we moved here, I'm really bummed that we had to cut it down before my daughter was born. But we had a Monterey cypress that would have been awesome for a tree house.
Ooh.
And then it split and famously cost me a truckload of money to have removed.
Right. As a child in the woods behind our house, my dad put up a tree stand, a straight up deer hunting tree stand. So that was my tree house.
Yeah.
And he also built a little log cabin.
Ooh.
Like a very basic, foot long or foot wide gaps between the beams or whatever.
Oh, that's fun.
But just logs like stacked on each other with a little tin roof. It was a good time.
So my uncle brought a drill rig rope, which was like a 2-inch diameter piece of hemp rope that was extra from his business down when he came to visit one time. And we took that and we strung it up in this tree that hung over the river. And he made like a big mesh web up about 15 feet in the tree. So you had to climb up to the tree and then you could sit up there and just kind of hang out and read or whatever. And that was awesome because when it was 100 degrees out in the summertime, the river was always like 50 degrees because it came out of the bottom of the dam. And it was fantastic because it was really, really, it was like natural air conditioning to go down and read a book or whatever.
Yeah.
But we've been doing with my daughter, we've gotten these construction kits that are like 2 foot long plastic sticks with hubs that have a bazillion holes in them. And she and I will make a dome with those and then just put blankets over the dome. And that's super. Like the toys are better now, Brad.
Yeah, it seems that way. The toys are better, but the social conditions are way worse.
Look, there's pros and cons.
Okay, let's see. Oh man, this one is a nightmare. Egg or cheese? You no longer eat one of them, including recipes. Which one and why?
I don't want to live in this world.
I eat a lot of recipes. Eggs. Oh yeah, yes. God, it pains me to do it, but I think I would have to cut out cheese because I don't know, man. Like you, I eat eggs numerous times a week, if not every day. And think about all the things that you would no longer be able to eat if you couldn't have eggs in things.
No cakes, no cookies.
No.
Nope. Well, I could eat pies still because there's hardly any egg in pies.
Yeah.
I would have to, it would have to be cheese for me, but that's a horrible choice.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I mean, I can't think of much worse than, do you think you can eat like vegan cheese at that point if it's not non-dairy cheeses, or you think those are out too?
Maybe.
There's some nut cheeses that are pretty good now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we randomly picked up some vegan goat cheese.
Yeah.
It's made out of sunflower seeds.
Yeah.
And I had some last night and I was like, you know what? I don't think I would quite mistake this if you put them side by side, but the flavor is pretty damn close. And like, it's pretty healthy. And it's just like, I just look at it as a spread that tastes kind of like goat cheese. It's not bad.
We got a feta, fake feta at some point that was like pretty indistinguishable. I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. God, yeah, this question sucks, but I think it's got to be eggs. Like you couldn't have mayonnaise anymore.
Mayonnaise is not the thing. Like just the number of eggs I eat a week. Like my default, hey, it's late and we need to make food for dinner. What are we going to make? Is like I'll fry some eggs and make toast and some fruit salad or something.
That is 100% it. Is like I need to eat. I don't know what else to make, or there's no food here. I'm going to make eggs and combine it with a carb of some kind.
Well, yeah, that and like the number, like I often will do like the sous vide, a batch of sous vide hard boiled eggs, stuff like that. And I can't even imagine.
Yeah. This is still a terrible question. Let's move on.
Yeah. There's one more terrible question in that pile that's bolded.
Oh, I don't know which one. Well, there's two, and I think you could be talking about either one of them. But okay, yeah, that's the one I was thinking. Yeah. If you had to pick a different billionaire to run Twitter, who would it be and why?
Every billionaire is a policy failure.
George Lucas.
Oh, fuck.
It is the only thing.
Oh, man, you might be right.
George Lucas is the only billionaire approaching good.
I don't know. Can we talk about the post Disney acquisition renaissance that George Lucas has faced?
No, because I haven't finished Andor yet, and we can't. Literally all I want to do right now is finish Andor, and we can't talk about it.
Hey, shout out to our friends over at A More Civilized Age, Austin and Rob and Natalie and Allie, who I have been really enjoying their recaps of Andor.
Yeah. I might have to go listen to that after I'm done.
Once I finised Andor, I was like, oh, I want more Andor. And I was like, oh, right. There's dozens of hours of podcast about this. So I went and listened, and it's been very good.
I was an early adopter, and we were super on board. And it turned out that after the heist episode, which was halfway through the season, which was like a great stopping place, I traveled and then I got sick and other stuff happened. And by then I was like, you know what, if we just wait an extra 2 weeks, we'll have the whole second half of the season to watch.
Well, so I watched in 3-episode chunks. I watched the first 3 in like 2 nights, and then I watched the next 3 in 2 nights, or the next 4 in 2 nights.
That's the way to go.
And that was like, it was nice to like, it was good to the what is it? It's episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then 4 is standalone, and then 5, 6, and 7.
4, 5, 6 are an arc. 4, 5, 6 are the heist arcs.
And then 7 is standalone.
7 is the standalone one. Yeah, and then 8, 9, 10 is an arc, and then the last 2.
Yeah. So like I got to episode 9 and was like, oh, I got to go to bed. Crap. This is an unbelievable cliffhanger. But I got to think about it all the next day and then watch it the next night. And it was a really satisfying experience.
Yeah. They put out the first 3 wisely together, so you could watch all those together. We watched the heist as it aired, which was agonizing.
Yeah. That's a lot of waiting.
It was painful. So I'm glad we waited. If my partner were not working this entire Thanksgiving weekend, so we have to watch it kind of piecemeal at night. I promised you we would have sat down and watched all 6 episodes back to back. Like it is. We got through 7 night before last and then 8 last night, and I'm like dying right now.
I started watching Rogue One the other day, and I was like, oh man, I forgot how hard this just starts. It just goes from the beginning.
Yeah. I've never seen it all the way through, and at this point I'm going to wait until all of Andor is done, meaning whenever season 2 finishes, and then watch Rogue One as basically the finale.
Wow.
But dude, we can move on. But like, I think it has gone beyond like, this is one of the best Star Wars things ever made to this is one of the best TV shows I've ever seen.
It's really good.
Anyway.
I don't think that a billionaire should be allowed to run anything that's in public use.
I was being somewhat facetious, but I do think that George Lucas is a very comical figure. I would love to see it. Anyway.
Like, I mean, honestly, so I've been spending a lot of time on Mastodon. I've been spending a little bit of time on post.news and a little bit of time on co-host, mostly lurking on co-host. And then I signed up for Hive, which seems like a mess.
Hive looks the most like Twitter, which I think is what got so much buzz.
It helps.
But did you see they had a server issue where for some period of time, people were allowed to sign up with duplicate usernames?
Great. I wish I had known that. I would have signed up for also I didn't get Will Smith on Hive. So it kind of impacts my ability to, and they only allow 14 character usernames. So not that Will Smith doesn't work either.
I don't think it's going to be Hive. I don't think any of the current options necessarily. We'll see. I don't know. Still.
Well, the thing that I'm finding is that like different groups are going to different places. So like Mastodon is a bunch of technologists and like people are having interesting conversations about content moderation there and stuff like that. And like the problems with all of this, like the thing that Twitter did that was really good was monetize content moderation. We talked about this last week or the week before.
Yes.
I don't know that the open source thing is going to be able to monetize content is going to be able to support the kind of content moderation that's required. Because like we're going to end up in the same situation we ended up with email and blogs in 6 months or a year where there's people there and it's just a spam haven and it's a disaster for admins. But anyway,
and let's face it, like a lot of open source projects, it's got UX shortcomings that like the social media platform that's going to catch on needs to be able to onboard people who don't want to figure out all that shit.
Does it? I mean, maybe being able to onboard all the people that don't want to figure out all that shit is part of that. Look, yes, it needs to be inclusive.
That's just going to lead to a very self-selecting crowd of techie type people, which is like fine. But what I mean is like the one that becomes the new, like if such a thing is even possible or desirable.
I think that's the takeaway is that it's not desirable to have
that is very possible.
Monolithic network with everybody on it. Maybe that's the problem.
Yes, I agree. All right. Let's just keep going with the SAFID list here. What investment miss do you most regret? I almost bought 85 Bitcoin for $1 each and almost bought Apple for 20 cents a share.
In 2010, when we had just moved into the Whiskey Media basement on Front Street, engineer Andy came to me and was like, hey, have you heard about this Bitcoin thing? You have a bunch of GPUs, right? And this was when you could trade 60 Bitcoins for a pizza, basically. Mm-hmm. So, whoops.
We've talked about this before. I also think back to that time when you and Norm started talking about Bitcoin. Yeah. And they were like less than $1 a piece.
Yeah.
And I think like if I had spent like $300 or $400, I wouldn't be here right now.
Even when we went to Austin for South by and bought the Bitcoin at the ATM for $500.
That would still be a profound investment today.
Would have been a pretty good investment, it turns out.
Well, at this point, like, I don't know if you keep up with the value. It is cratered.
It's like 10K, right? Last time I looked, I think.
Yes. And it peaked at like 50, right?
60 something. Yeah.
60?
Yeah.
Although I also think about like, if you were in that situation, if you had like, say 500 Bitcoin that you had bought back in the day, like cashing those out is not a trivial process, right? Like that seems like that would be extremely dodgy, both from like, income reporting standpoint and also like dealing with some brokerage to actually do it.
There's tools to do it now. It's not as much of a problem. Like it's just pretty straightforward. The big thing for me is I probably would have sold when it hit 5K. Like if I had a bunch of Bitcoins I paid $1 for, I would have made $150,000 instead of $15 million.
Yeah.
Right. Or, I mean, I guess the smart thing to do is sell half and then keep the others. And anyway, it doesn't matter.
My bigger question is when was Apple 20 cents a share, or is that some employee situation?
Apple was probably 20 cents a share in like 1998.
Yeah. I guess like right around the time they were on the verge of collapse.
Yeah. My guess is when they were.
Oh, I can look that up. Actually, here is some good historical. Wow. July. Let's see. It was 20 cents a share in 1983.
From all through the 90s, it was 30 cents a share in 1998, 20 cents a share in 1996.
Yeah, look at that, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was that cheap. Holy crap. That's insane.
Look, when you bought Apple at 20 cents a share in 1996, you were betting that they survived another 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. It's a long haul. I bought GE at that point, and that's worked out great for me.
Wait,
it hasn't worked out great,
okay.
Brad.
I wasn't quite sure if that was sarcasm or not, but
no, look, I'm going to go and tell you when 30 Rock was on and Alec Baldwin was talking about the Scheinhardt Wig company owning GE, those jokes hurt.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Should we move on?
Sure.
From
probably best.
Looking through this. You know what? I'll one more. Oh, well, a couple. What household fix are you most proud of? Well, I broke some battery-powered fairy lights last night.
Oh, no.
You know what I'm talking about? The little LED. Yeah. They're like the wire.
Yeah, they're like real thin wires, right?
Yeah, that are flexible, so you can kind of mold them into shape. I broke one of the wires off last night and soldered it back together. And
nice.
Instead of spending $10. So that's a fun one.
I laser cut a rigidity plate for my faucet to keep it from wobbling because it was not designed to go on a stainless steel sink.
Nice. So
that was pretty good. I literally took the picture. I took a picture of it from a website and traced it and measured the holes to make sure they're the right size, and then stacked it 3 deep and acrylic cemented it together. And yeah.
Fabricating your own homeowner fix type stuff is still among the most futuristic things that I can think of.
That's pretty cool.
It feels like something out of Minority Report or AI or some of those near future science fiction type films.
Yeah. I built a bench for the laser cutter when we got that, a workbench that was the right height to be comfortable to work at and stuff like that. I don't know. It's you eventually you just kind of start doing stuff and don't really remember doing it just fades into the background of life.
Yes, indeed. All right. Last question, I'm going to say.
Okay.
It's from Cake Batter.
I'm not surprised.
It has to be from Cake Batter. As you grow older, does the call of setting up a model railroad in your home increase?
Oh, God, yes.
Wait, really? Are you actually a model railroad guy?
Look, I had a model railroad when I was a kid.
Oh.
It was in the unfinished basement. It was my favorite thing to play with because
really?
I didn't even build, it didn't even occur to me that you could build scenery and stuff for your model railroad.
Oh, I was going to ask if you were the full on model terrain, kind of building the valley that you live in type stuff.
I conceptually had no idea that was a thing that you could do. It had never occurred to me. I just liked having the trains ride around in the circles and making the tracks do different things and all of that. That part of it was fun enough. At the Living Desert Museum in Palm Desert, California, which we've been to a couple times now. They have a huge outdoor train set that's I don't know, it's maybe half an acre. It's really, really big with 5 different tracks, all sorts of different scales, trains, recreations of old buildings from the town. And people have donated their own buildings. Businesses have donated their own buildings and all sorts of stuff. So it's this huge sprawling train
set. That's cool.
And you can hit the button and make it go, and it is very satisfying.
That's cool. I bet model railroad is a place where the kind of end user fabrication tech is super useful these days. I bet there's some cool shit going on in model railroading.
I have everything I need to be able to make a lot of model railroad business.
That absolutely sounds like the project of the rest of your life. If you were to get into that seems like the kind of thing that you tinker with right up until the end. I
mean, look, if Reverend Lovejoy is wrong, I don't want to be right, Brad.
That's fair. For my part, I'm going to say that my LAN is my model railroad. I like.
Oh, that's it. That's the thing you like.
I like making the packets go around the invisible railroad. A home network is like an invisible railroad. It kind of is.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You hook the data up in the train and then let it rip.
I mean, the way that I've got Ethernet mounted around the baseboard and door jambs in this apartment around the perimeter of the house, it kind of is like a physical railroad.
It's not. You're not wrong. The thing that's keeping me from doing it is just space. We don't have I would need a room to dedicate to it, and we don't have that here.
We should move somewhere with more space.
It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
Yes. Anyway, we should move to the end of the episode.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Brad, it is the time of the show where we thank our patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons. Thank you for not making me buy a guitar. Despite your best efforts.
6 months, Brad. I give you 6 months. Keep practicing, and one day we'll let you buy a guitar, Brad.
Mm-hmm.
I too have not bought the guitar. Anyway. If you would like to support the show and continue enabling Brad and I to make poor financial decisions, you can do that by going to patreon.com/techpod. Again, it's patreon.com/techpod. And for as little as $2 a month, you can get access to the Fabulous TechPod Discord, where you will meet beautiful nerds who encourage you to buy things that you may or may not need, but will definitely enrich your life, including Andrew Slosky. Bunny is thankful for ellipses. That's how you can tell Bunny is part of Gen X, is with the ellipses there.
Yeah.
Paddle Creek Games, makers of Fractured Veil, James Kamek, Joel Krauske, Just Wedge, and Twinkle Twinkie. And since it's the end of the month, we also thank our associate producer tier patrons, including Andre M. Burke, Arthur Gies, Dave Yulian, Eric Klein, Graham Banks, Jad Rita, Jason Nealand, Jay Maybe, Joseph Thorne, Nathan Phelps, Steve Lynn, Thomas Shea, and Travis Rosner. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you. We are thankful for our patrons. You keep us going.
Yeah, all of you. It's funny because like we get the emails. I love. Don't tell potential advertisers this. But when people send a note and they're like, hey, we'd like to insert an ad in your podcast, just send us your rate and like how soon you can get the ads in. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but we're 100% listener supported and we don't take advertising on our show. And the support of our patrons is what makes that possible. So yes, we do appreciate you all so much. Just so we can tell advertisers to pound sand. And I guess that'll do it for us this week.
That's true. I've been Linuxing a lot on this break. Dude, it happened.
Yeah.
I sedded successfully without looking anything up.
Wow.
Sed. Familiar with it?
You said what?
SED, stream editor, I believe is what it
is. That what it stands for? I've only used it in the context of here's some shit you should type in that you don't necessarily need to understand what it does.
I believe that's where the name came from. I needed to take a string, a numeric string, and replace the first digit with something else.
Ooh.
And I just did it without having to look up the regular expressions or the sed formatting last night. And I was like, oh man, I finally arrived.
Wait, you can regex without you can regex blind now too?
Regex.
Regex. I would assume that's regex.
That's why I said regular expressions out loud, because I wasn't sure how people
is this another GIF situation?
Probably.
Oh, let us know how you feel. Do you think it's a soft J or a hard soft G or hard G? Let us know. That's awesome. That's really cool.
I was very excited, very proud.
I made the best apple pie I've ever made this year.
Ooh, wait, you can't tell me that. I wasn't there.
I'm sorry. I pre-cooked the apples so there was no gap between the top of the apples and the bottom of the crust. It was amazing.
You're supposed to tell me how terrible all the food was.
Everything else was shit except for your mom's broccoli casserole.
Well, that goes without saying.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't disrespect your mom. Bye, everybody. See you next week.